This first one is called The Prairie is on Fire. From afar, it looks like a diorama. Wisps of trees quiver like feathers over the hillside. Box-shaped houses fade from their rows. Little figures stand still on the porches and driveways as toy-like vehicles wait at the stoplights. The surrounding land is dotted with tractors. Their shovels rise and fall, digging ever deeper into the hills and causing the ground beneath to give way. All has become captive to a subliminal landscape as fissures in the earth creep across the plains. The town stops abruptly at a soaring edge, positioned above an expanse of caverns, the whole place sliding increasingly down a slope of jutting rock into the mines. Stripes of iron and magnesium blacken the incline as children sit on the rim of the abyss, throwing keepsakes into the darkness, rag dolls and Swiss Army knives, plastic figures tied to parachutes. It is only a matter of time before the town is swallowed up. Over the next 20 years, everything will be moved a few miles down the road, where a new city awaits to be built up from the ground. The houses will be demolished or rolled away on wheels. The famous church will be disassembled and put back together again, the villagers holding pieces of it in their hands as they head over the hill in a great procession into the distance. If there were a time-lapse sequence capturing the metamorphosis, everything would appear in upheaval and motion, like an opera set being put up and broken down. But in real time, here, everything seems still. A sense of waiting for something is tangible in the air. The villagers hold off on buying houses and having children. They wait to open businesses and resist the urge to redecorate, etc. The architects meet to discuss their designs, knowing the dilemma has exceeded structure and become existential. How can we determine the value of a house in a place that doesn't even exist, says one of them, suddenly feeling part of a utopian experiment. They hope to transfer as much of the old city as possible, but they can't move everything. Memories of the place cannot be translated. No surplus of precious metals can reinstate the benches where love was made in the parks, or the rooms of hospitals where babies were born, floating in towers of artificial light, soon to be absorbed into the dust of the caverns. It is summer. The town is close enough to the Arctic Circle to be in a state of perpetual daylight, echoing the constant darkness of the winters. The district only a cluster of roofs covered with snowfall most of the year. But now, in the heat, young girls look up at the moon in the middle of the day, only imagining the shadows it casts on their faces. In the new town, all the quandaries of youth will remain. There will still be a midnight sun, and the virgins will stand on the cliffs as they would in any place, still looking for the edge of something, wanting to begin. That was that one. This feels like story time. Okay, so the next one is called Blue Moon. The encounter is always breathtakingly brief. Young and alone, they ride to the border on the roofs of freight trains or the backs of buses. They cross the river on inner tubes or hike for days through extremes of heat and chill in the deserts. Death comes as a surprise to many, to quiet men with the hearts of engineers, to doctors with secrets of the world's demise, to the unexpected surge of children who travel here without parents, as if hoping to arrive at the sea of tranquility. A storm threatens the last stretch of railroad, winding through mountains of hazardous waste as it approaches the damsel tied to the tracks. There she lies, having survived a summer of flitting through narrow corridors, waiting limp-wristed in greenhouses for the thrill of a billionaire or lunar eclipse. Her thoughts are an index of topics memorized for conversational luncheons, notes on the end of a tumultuous and consequential decade. These things wander her mind out of place, like non-native birds drifting in from the sea. We still have time to tell the story of the last, she begins, but is interrupted by the immeasurable speed at which love can strike. It flies over town like a passing comet, bystanders falling to their knees on the sidewalk below. Cries of awe echo through the streets, ricocheting between buildings as if the shards of a fallen meteor. But there are still those who avert their eyes. We've lost our ability to capture information, says the billionaire, peering through the blinds as a lovesick eagle falls past his window. The train approaches, a child or two hanging tight to its roof. The last thought to race through the damsel's head is of the first human to set foot on the moon, bounding like a kangaroo through the low lunar gravity. His shadow falls over craters still seen with the naked eye, a single flag fluttering in the celestial wind around him. That moment may turn out to be the pinnacle of humanity's achievement, says the billionaire, recalling the same image from the place where he stands, knowing that success is bound irrevocably to the rubble in its wake. The billionaire's window glows blue through the evening, all lights but the television gone from the room. Sometimes I feel like I'm not sure I have the ability, if I've ever really, truly loved anyone, or if I've ever really been loved, says a voice on the screen, where two people lay in bed playing out the last scene of a marriage. In the original, it's the woman who says this. In the remake, it's the man. The train turns the bend and continues on in blind orbit, jolting over whatever it must. Shout out to Megan on that one. Okay, I'm just gonna do two more. This one is called A Certain Music. A young man leans on the balcony, a shiny red wig covering his dark curls. He wears his dead grandmother's floral-patterned housecoat, unbuttoned to reveal the scars across his bare chest where the glass has been removed from his body. He has stayed here to be among her things, to wear her gloves and pearls, to be surrounded by her knickknacks, the clothes she'd sewn for him, for his Barbie dolls as a child, her sunken throw pillows, her church lady smell. When he saw her in the casket, her pen was still in her pocket, her hair still neatly arranged in a bun. He waited for her chest to move, but her lips were purple, no ticking from her rib cage since it was pierced by a fallen shard. Where the young man leans, delicate plants grow at the perimeter of the balcony, masking a disheveled horizon beyond it, the streets below filled with piles of glass, a detritus of prisms distorting the view, glowing in patches of cracked rainbow light. An old peddler walks through it, carrying a stick loaded with cotton candy, his feet clanging with a certain music as they drag through the debris. When the wind blows, the bundles of pink fluff drift into the air, casting long U-boat shadows across the road, floating like clouds past the empty buildings. Everyone here has reckoned with the glass. It falls from the sky daily and can be felt in the heart, the ears, the eyes. Some people still find pieces of it in the corners of their houses. Some have ingested it without knowing, like spiders that crawl into a person's mouth when they're sleeping, or the fragments found in spoonfuls snuck from the sugar jar at night. The window panes are all missing, punched out from their frames. There's no glass left anywhere that isn't broken. It can only be dug up from the ground or collected in buckets where it leaks from holes in the roof, its transparent dust sifted through fingers, squeezed and released from bloody palms. Children pick up the jagged shapes and use them to burn insects on the sidewalk or string them together and hang them as wind chimes. They use them as knives to hold up the tourists, those who haven't already been impaled by flying shards against the walls like notes to a dartboard. It didn't say anything in the guidebook about that. The inventory is as such: a pile of yellow workers' boots, a broken elevator, a package of birth control pills floating beside a half-eaten lollipop and an Islamic amulet meant to protect the house, stuffed down the drain of a shattered toilet, a curved sectional sofa in an empty lobby covered in plastic, a ladder in a dark room, leading up to a single square of light in the ceiling, the only exit. On the roof, a little girl holds a white dress up to her body on a hanger, sooty handprints dirtying the gauze of the skirt. One of her eyes is real. One of them is glass. Her father covered the other half of her face with a pillow when they were in the hospital, so she wouldn't see any of the carnage around them. Since then, a tower of pillows has been stacked in her bedroom. She's a joyful child who spontaneously dances in the street when she hears a catchy song. Now, the clang of a certain music can be heard from below. A bundle of cotton candy floats up to her out of nowhere, and she stuffs a handful of it in her mouth, feeling the pink fluff dissolve on her tongue into tiny specks of glass. When she grows up, she will set her dress on fire. She will become a woman in a black, wide-brimmed hat who sits alone in a cinder-black cafe of empty tables. "We haven't forgotten you," the graffiti on the wall will say outside. She will stand in front of it as she reapplies her red lipstick. In her future life, she will work all day, putting food out for the street cats at midnight, the felines lounging about like goddesses on the Acropolis, unbothered by the din of the glass falling from the sky. "We've become used to the sound. It's like hearing birds," says one of them, licking the dots of glass from her paw, imagining a world of milk and money and meat. A rain cloud passes over and showers down a new burst of shards. In a moment, the polyester panels of umbrellas will be torn to pieces. In a moment, the man on the balcony will soar into the abyss of rainbow light. Okay, this is the last one, and it's the littlest one. It's called County Fair. He hopes to fly a giant helium balloon, a record 25 miles into the Earth's atmosphere, and parachute down. This is a moment worthy of fanfare. 6 teenagers stand with their heads spinning. A farmer throws down his pillow. A quarry worker lets his shoulders go weak. A communist boss kneels down in the street and begs the man in the balloon to stop. The crowd calls out to him with weary arms. "Fly off to new realms," they cry. This is what life has been like. Mothers make kites out of junk mail leaflets, searching for missing people. They fly them over houses that have fallen off the market. A lemon drops from the sky into the hands of the assistant who counts new shapes. She works for the chief. She is busy in his saddle. As he thrusts her the usual afternoon earthquake, topspin, lakes threaten to flood, postmen ring doorbells with overwhelming force. Hunters drop their shotguns and explode with dreams of mounting their wives on walls. This is no Sunday in the park, thinks the assistant. She spent her school years studying maps of the chief's insides, and now, as he approaches nuclear disarmament, she finds herself quietly lost, unequipped for the weapons of Europe. After 25 years of extraordinarily bad news about childhood obesity, the balloon inflates and floats away, leaving the gondola with the man inside on the ground. In Moscow, when this sort of thing happens, it is not unusual for a man to throw his face in a barrel. Today, a bit breezy. Tonight, clear light winds. Tomorrow, plentiful sunshine. Thank you.